Hello, welcome to this video, VMware vSphere overview. In this video, we are going to take a look at Introduction to VMware vSphere, version history and its components. First we'll look at what is VMware vSphere. In earlier videos, we discussed about the server virtualization. For doing that server virtualization, we need some products. So VMware is a vendor who provide a complete suite for that, which is known as VMware vSphere, which helps in doing the transformation of a data center into software-based data center. VMware vSphere also provides the capability of doing the centralized management of your entire data center. We'll look at the version history. As of now, in a market, the latest version which is running of vSphere, that is 6.7. Before that, we had 6.5, 6.0, 5.5, 5.1, 5.0, 4.1 and 4.0. Now we'll discuss about the components of VMware vSphere. We have basically three core components of VMware vSphere. One is host, which is known as ESXi. Another is guest, which is known as virtual machines. Third one is management, which is known as vCenter server. So what is ESXi host? ESXi host is a hypervisor and being used for the virtualization layer. In the earlier videos, we discussed about the virtualization layer that needs establishing a communication between the virtual machines and a physical server. So ESXi helps in doing that. ESXi directly installed on the physical server as an operating system, and it also helps in abstracting the resources from physical hardware and assign those resources to the virtual machines. What is virtual machine? Virtual machine, we discussed about the virtual servers. So that is itself a virtual machine. In a traditional data centers, we had physical servers, and that was providing the capability for installing the operating system and applications. In a virtual data center, we have virtual machine which is providing the same capability. But you do not require multiple physical hardware for creating a virtual machine. On a single hardware, you can have multiple virtual machines. On top of that virtual machine, we have operating system and applications. And that virtual machine uses the virtual resources such as virtual CPU, virtual memory, virtual NIC and virtual disk. Now third component is virtual center. Virtual center allows management of your entire virtualization data center. Taking example of earlier days when you were doing the health check of your physical data center. For doing that, you had to visit in a data center and then you were checking all the lights, all the hard drives and other errors. But that is not the case in virtual data center now. You have centralized management and you can perform all those tasks using that management console itself. So you do not need to visit the data center now. You just have to sit on a chair and open the console of virtual center server and manage the complete environment. So it also provides the capability of performing the day-to-day tasks. Like if you want to build a server, if you want to take a snapshot, if you want to do any activity in your virtual data center, you can manage it through the virtual center itself. So that's a management layer on the top of all the components what we have in a terms of physical server, hypervisor and virtual machines. Now moving to the other components. We discussed about the core components. Now these components we have as a data stores, virtual switches, cluster, virtual data center, web client and other services. Data center, if we'll talk about, we have multiple virtual machines running in the environment. Those virtual machines having some files. So where those files get stored? So that is the data store where the virtual machine files get stored. Virtual switches. We have virtual machine as a virtual object. And on a bottom layer, we have physical host. We want to communicate with the physical host to the virtual machines. So virtual switch helps in establishing that connection between the virtual machine and physical host. We have vNIC on the virtual machines, and we have physical hardware NIC, which is also known as vMNIC, which is installed, which is attached on the physical host. And virtual switch uses that physical NIC and provide the virtual NIC to the virtual machines. Another component we have cluster. We have multiple physical servers in the environment. On top of that physical server, we have virtual machines running. So we need to manage in a single cluster. So we create cluster for that. So that cluster is a container of a multiple ESXi host and multiple virtual machines. If you want to do some kind of segregation like prod, non-prod, DMZ kind of thing, you definitely want to go in a cluster wise. And for that purpose, you create cluster and do the segregation. Data center, which is also known as virtual data center. Let's suppose you have multiple clusters. You have one cluster for prod, you have another cluster for non-production environment, third cluster is for DMZ environment. You'll keep those all cluster in a virtual data center. So that virtual center is being used for managing the multiple clusters in your environment. Web client, that is another role which is helping us in managing the complete environment. So we have clusters, we have virtual data center, we have multiple ESXi hosts, we have multiple virtual machines, and for accessing the virtual center server, we need a console. That console is a web client. That web client can be accessed through any web browser, and you can open that browser and just enter the IP address of your virtual center server, and it will open the web client and show all the inventory of your virtual data center, including clusters, ESXi host, virtual machines, data stores, and networking. So that is the main role of a web client. Apart from those components, we have other services such as HA, DRS, vMotion, VLAN, VXLAN, Update Manager, and databases. So that we are going to discuss in coming videos. So that's all about the VMware vSphere. Now we are going to next video where we'll look at the licensing overview. If you want to establish a new data center, or if you want to extend your existing data center, you need licenses to manage that. So that we are going to watch in a next video. Stay tuned. Thank you.